You hold out a piece of chicken. Your dog leans in. And then, just to see what he does, you pull your hand back. Most people read the next few seconds as begging. He wants it, so he waits. He isn't waiting because he wants it. He's waiting because he already decided something about you. And in a lab in Vienna, somebody measured that decision, and then measured it again 30 seconds later, when it had already expired. There are 4 things your dog reads off you in about 10 seconds. 3 of them are gone almost immediately. The 4th one stays, and it has nothing to do with how you treat him. Here's the setup. A dog stands on one side of a low wall. There's a gap in it, wide enough for a hand. On the other side, a woman feeds him pieces of food through that gap, one after another, until he stops thinking about it. Then she stops. 3 different ways of stopping. In the first, she brings the food to the gap and yanks it back on purpose. In the second, she brings it to the gap and fumbles it. It drops and rolls away from her. In the third, someone slides the wall shut so the gap is gone, and she just stands there holding food she can't give him. Same ending every time. He doesn't get it. The dog can walk around the wall whenever he likes. Nothing is stopping him. So the question is simply, how long does he stand there first? He waits longest when she did it on purpose. Split each dog's own waiting time across the 3 versions, and it comes out 43% for the deliberate one, 32% for the clumsy one, 25% when the wall was shut. 51 dogs, and the effect is not subtle. Read the order for a second, because it's stranger than it looks. He's most impatient when the wall is shut, when she obviously can't reach him. He's most patient when she's fumbling, and he's most willing to just stand there and stare when she meant it. There were 2 other things some of them did. 13 of the 51 sat down or lay down at some point, and about 2/3 of those times it happened in the deliberate version. 15 of them stopped wagging, and nearly 4 out of 5 of those times it was, again, the deliberate version. I want to be straight about those 2. The authors looked at them after the fact. They never ran a statistical test on them, and most of the dogs never did either one at all. So treat it as something to watch for tonight, not as a rule. Which you can do tonight, actually. Drop something by accident. Then, another time, take something back on purpose. Watch which one he sits down for. That's the first thing. Here's the second. When that study came out, one detail bothered a group in Vienna. The woman in it had been talking. When she yanked the food away, she said, "Ha ha." When she dropped it, she said, "Oops." When the wall closed, she said, "Oh." That's 3 different tones of voice attached to 3 different endings, and dogs are very good at tone of voice. So maybe the dogs weren't reading her intention at all. Maybe they were just reading her mouth. So the Vienna team built it again and took the voice out. Silent, neutral face, no exclamations, nothing to read off her expression. And they closed the loopholes. The dog couldn't walk around the barrier at all this time, and the dropped food rolled back down a ramp to her side, so it was never a free snack on the floor. 8 cameras tracking the dog in 3 dimensions. The whole thing registered in advance, so they couldn't go fishing for a result afterward. 48 dogs, same separation, not weaker, stronger. They saw the sitting and lying down too, and this time with actual numbers behind it, significantly more of it when she was teasing him than when she was fumbling. So it isn't your tone. Try it silently sometime, and you'll see the same thing. He's reading the shape of the movement, not the sound you make while you do it. That's the second thing. The third one is where it turns. Because the same team asked the obvious follow-up question, and almost nobody quotes the answer. If a dog can tell she meant it from she messed up, does he do anything with that? They ran a second experiment. 2 different women this time. One of them always teased. The other one always fumbled. 12 demonstrations. So there's no confusion about who is who. Then they opened it up and let the dog walk to whichever one he wanted. He chose the fumbler 47% of the time, which is a very elaborate way of saying he flipped a coin. The time he spent standing near each of them came out identical. Then they gave both women a bowl to point at. If you just watched somebody pull food out from under your nose 12 times in a row, you might weight her advice a little differently. He didn't. He followed the teaser's point just as readily. 46%, 47%, it's noise. Here's how the authors put it, and I'd rather use their sentence than mine. Dogs, they wrote, acted as if they understood certain human intentions. This, however, does not show that they represent human intentions, but just that they distinguish similar actions associated with different intentions. He read the act. He never wrote it down next to her name. And that's worth sitting with for a second, because of what a lot of us are quietly doing with our dogs. You skip a walk and feel like you've made a deposit in the wrong column. You have one short-tempered evening, and you wonder what it cost you. Then you spend a week being extra good to make up for it. 10 seconds. That's the window this kind of judgment appears to live in. And then it's gone. He is not keeping a file on you, which is either a relief or slightly insulting, depending on your evening. That's 3. Here's the fourth, and the fourth one is the reason the other 3 matter. Move to Kyoto, 54 dogs, 18 in each of 3 groups, and this time, the dog isn't the one being treated badly. You are. Your dog watches you sit on the floor and struggle with a container you can't get open. 2 strangers are in the room. One of them is close enough to help. In the first group, you turn and ask her, and she reaches over and holds the bottom of the container so you can get the lid off. In the second group, you turn and ask her, and she turns away. You keep struggling. Nobody helps. In the third group, you never ask anyone anything. You just give up on your own, while she happens to turn away at the same moment. Then both strangers hold out food to your dog at exactly the same time. Palms open, both looking at the floor, both silent. Your eyes are closed. 4 rounds. When she helped you, the dog chose between them at chance. When nobody asked her for anything, chance again. When she was asked and turned away, the dogs went out of their way not to take her food. 11 of the 18 took it at most once out of 4. Now, the counter-evidence, because there is some, and it's specific. The comparison everybody quotes from this study is non-helper versus the one who did nothing. That comparison did not clear the test the authors had set up in advance. It came out at 0.075. One dog in that group took the non-helper's food all 4 times, on his own, against the pattern of every other dog in the group. And that single animal was enough to sink it. They only got it under the line by running a second, different test afterward. The authors say all of this in the paper themselves, which I appreciate. So the honest version is, the effect against someone who refused you is solid. Whether it's specifically about refusing versus just about being the person in the room when things went badly for you is not fully closed. One more thing about that study. The same lab ran the same procedure with 36 cats. Nothing. The cats took food from whoever was offering. Put the 2 halves together and you get something I did not expect. Tease him, and he's over it by the time he's in the next room. Turn your back on you, and he won't eat out of your hand. There's one more layer here, and I'm putting it last because nobody has settled it. 260 dogs, in Vienna again. A woman points at a bucket. The bucket is empty. She's pointing at the wrong one every single time. The only thing that changes is whether she was in the room when the food got moved. If she watched it get moved and still pointed at the empty bucket, 29% of dogs followed her. If she'd stepped out and couldn't possibly have known, 48% followed her. Which is the direction you'd want if a dog can tell an honest mistake from a bad steer. But look what happens when you split it by breed. Border Collies went the same way and didn't reach significance. Terriers went the other way entirely, and that flip was statistically real. The author's own summary is that this remains an exciting hypothesis, not a finding, a hypothesis. And I'll add one more piece of honesty. There's a famous 2017 study people cite as proof that dogs deliberately lie, that they'll lead a greedy stranger to an empty box to keep the good food for themselves. I went looking for it this week. It's behind a paywall, and there is no legal free copy anywhere, so I'm going to tell you exactly what its own summary claims, and not one word more. Over 2 test days, the dogs led the competitive stranger to the empty box more often than they led the cooperative one there. No numbers, because I couldn't read them. If somebody tells you that study proves your dog lies to you, ask them which page. So, next time you pull the treat back and he sits down and stops wagging, that isn't him holding it against you. He knows you meant it, and in about 10 seconds, he's done with it. What he actually keeps is smaller and stranger than a grudge. It isn't what you do to him, it's what someone else does to you. Which leaves one question hanging, and the same labs are still arguing about it. If your dog can sort other people, can he sort himself? Next week, the mirror test. Why dogs fail it? Why it was probably never the right test for an animal that lives through its nose. And what happened when somebody finally ran the same experiment using smell instead. There's one detail in that one about what a dog does with his own scent that I still think about. Before you go, tell me the last thing your dog forgave you for. One word is fine.